Welcome to Vital Signs with Lisa Williams. I am your host, Lisa Williams, and today we will be speaking about what really goes on in a long term care facility from a nurse perspective. I had the pleasure of speaking with several nurses on what their day to day looks like in working in a long term care facility. Out of the many nurses that I spoke to, the information that I received was so similar in nature and in context. I thought it imperative that I have them on the show to share their experience and stories to encourage other healthcare professionals to sign up with Vital Signs and share their stories as well. I chose an LPN out of Texas to be on the show today. For those of you that do not know what an LPN is, it's a licensed practical nurse, also known as an LVN, which is a licensed vocational nurse. It just depends on what state you're in. LPNs provide routine care for sick or injured patients. They work closely with RNs, doctors, and other medical staff and the family members to come up with patient care plans for each individual. It is my honor to have this guest. I am so thrilled to have her join us for this eye opening journey that we're going to be going through when we shine a light on what is so often unseen and undiscussed realities of providing care in long term care facilities. Come on into the room. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful, wonderful. We're going to just jump right on into it. So let me go
Okay.
ahead and just ask you, what initially drew you to work in long term care facilities?
Okay, well, initially I wanted to be a lawyer, but then my grandfather, he got sick and he passed away in 2007. He got sick and he wasn't treated right in the nursing
Mm-hmm.
home. So I'm like, maybe I should become a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I could change what's happening.
Well, what are some of the challenges or significant challenges that you face, in the day to day of being an LPN and working in a long term care facility?
Um, so many. It's so many challenges.
Mm-hmm.
The most challenge that I experience is the short staff. So oftentimes we are left to work with short staff members, and that increases our ratio to residents that we have. So it's a challenge when you're short staffed, and then on top of that, the lack of tools in the nursing homes. It's been plenty of times where I would have to compromise. I would have to make things work for my aides, even like if they didn't have linen, I would have to cut up a sheet, or it's been if we don't have the tools to properly take care of them, that's a big challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest challenge of them all is not being able to use my nursing judgment. Pretty much, the nursing home is, you're not allowed to do what you want to do as a nurse.
Gotcha.
And
So you feel basically that all the experience that you have and all the people that you have provided quality care for in the past, you kind of are you saying you feel suffocated, in being able to use your experiences when you're working?
yes, absolutely, because not the knowledge that I know now is
Mhm.
because of the rating. If I'm taking care of a resident and they are not at their baseline that I'm used to them being at, and I feel like as a nurse I should send them out to the hospital, I can't,
Mm.
because it holds it against the facility. And it's just really hard not being able to be a voice, be a nurse, go to school for it, pass the testing, and not being able to do what I feel is right for a resident and a human being. You know what I mean? So
I do.
that's that's what I mean by not being able to use my calling as a nurse.
The title of our episode is What's Really Going On Inside, which is shining a light in on some of the facilities that nurses work in. And we're just focusing today on long-term care facilities. So how do you know what's going on? You know what some of the people are saying because they're so exhausted. They're tired. When they come in, they already know what to expect from some of the directors of nursing. So if you have this
Right.
big, beautiful facility, the grounds, are landscape and beautiful. The outside of that facility is just so beautiful. But when you get on the inside, the nurses can tell you what's really going on. What's the day to day for something like that for you? And
So,
no families are coming in that that
yes.
often.
Okay, so at first, when I became a nurse, it wasn't as bad, and I feel like when COVID hit, it opened up a lot of opportunity for negligence and abandonment from from the workers and the family, because family wasn't allowed in there, and
Mm.
I feel like everybody grow accustomed. So me as a nurse, as an agency nurse at that, so I go everywhere. So when I go into a facility, I never know what I'm going to walk into, and it's be times that I have to pray before I go in. But as
Mm.
my mindset is, I do what I can do, and these patients are on the spectrum of acute care to independence.
Mm.
So we as healthcare workers, we just gotta, like, we have to do what we have to do because of the lack of staffing. Your family members are not getting what they need. They're not. And for example, it hurts my heart, but we have total care. We have residents that's total care, and they can't feed themselves. They can't do anything for themselves, and we're so short staffed. The CNAs are not feeding them, or
Mm.
if they're feeding them, they're giving them one teaspoon and that's it. One spoon, and I'm out of there because I have 4 or 5 feeds on one set.
And a lot of it is based on two things from all the people that I've spoken with, the nurses. Number one, a shortage of nurses because, that LPN or CNA, RN have just too many patients to provide care for. Then you have those that come in and be like, okay, they already come in with the mindset, you know what? I'm not going to be able to make everybody. I already know I'm
Right.
not going to be able to make everybody. It's like they're defeated before they even
Start the
get
shift.
in the building. Yeah,
Right.
before they even start their shift, they're defeated.
Right. It's supposed to be ethical,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all a game. It's all unethical. And what I mean by that, I go back to my point about not being able to use my nursing judgment. So with nursing, like Ms. Lisa stated earlier, you see a beautiful, huge facility. I mean, the floors are polished, everything looks good, but on the inside, it's not really what it is. So
Mm-hmm.
I have a director of nursing that has to meet a certain quota to have a 4 or 5 star facility. So if you have a nurse like myself that wants to send a resident out to the hospital, my DON is going to intercept that and tell me I can't. I done been in a situation where a resident just screaming out, and I taken care of this resident for a long time, so I know this resident's baseline, and she's screaming and just in agony, pain. My hips hurt. I'm hurting, and I text my DON, and I'm like, she's hurting,
Mm-hmm.
and she never complains like this. Something is going on. So I text the doctor, and the doctor give me orders to get her a 2-view hip
Mm-hmm.
X-ray to rule out a broken hip.
Mm-hmm.
And the DON tell me she's going to handle it, and she never did it. So
Mm.
if they report things like they should, it triggers to the state, and it brings the rating of the facility down.
Gotcha.
So that's when greed come in and unethical, because they don't really care at that point about her broken hip. Because
Mm-hmm.
my goodness sake, if I send her to the hospital, it's going to trigger it to the state, and we're going to go down to a 2-star facility, and we're not going to get bodies in the building.
Wow.
So
Let me ask you a question. With working in those type of conditions in some of the long-term care facilities, do you sometimes feel that if you go against what maybe the director of nursing is saying, or whoever's in charge for that facility, and you go against what they're saying, can you tell me if you feel sometimes that your nurse's license could be in jeopardy?
absolutely.
Mm,
Day in and day out, going into a facility, accepting an assignment, I feel like my license is at jeopardy. And especially if you go against what the DON tell you to do, you know,
mm-hmm,
because ACA, which is State of Nursing, Board of Nursing, they make it easy for, your DON or administrator, whoever, they can write any type of comment on your license. So you can
mm-hmm.
have someone that's just doing, because they're mad or they're being petty, and because you chose to use your nursing judgment and you send a person out, they can DNR you. So meaning you can't return back to the facility, and they can
Mm-hmm.
give a negative remark on your license. So all
Wow.
the time, that's all I think about is my license. And um, to anybody that's out there in the situation that I'm in, I always say cross your T's and dot your I's to the best of your ability. I'm going to speak about a situation when I was like up against the DON, because the rule in her facility was before we call anyone, we had to call her first. And at first, I'm like, oh no, I'm going to do what I want to do. I want to do what I want to do. And then not only is my license at jeopardy, my livelihood is at jeopardy. That's when she
Mm,
started not accepting me in the facility. So, I have to feed my kids. I have two
mm,
kids. So my back was up against the wall, and I gave in, and I started letting her guide me. It's like doing the devil work, and it's a real, real hard thing to do when you're dealing with
wow.
humans. So all the time, I feel like my license and I feel like my livelihood is up.
That's why I'm so glad that you came on to be a guest today, because Vital Signs with Lisa Williams is definitely a platform for nurses to come in and have these conversations, because that's what we have to have, these hard conversations and speak what
Hmm.
you're going through as a nurse in these facilities day to day and what's really happening. You
Exactly.
really got to dive in and check that facility out,
Yep.
go in there and talk to them, go in there and just see what's going on a regular basis,
Hmm.
because you're right, that what's really going on. It's like, don't judge the book by its cover, but hey, if you are inside on the home team, like so many nurses are, you guys are crucial and vital to providing the quality care. But if your hands are tied when you go into that facility to provide that quality care, number one, being short staffed, and you can't leave, really, right? Am I right? You can't leave
You
until your
can't leave
relief gets
because
there.
they're going to hit you with abandonment. Your license is up. They hold that over your head. I cannot
Mm-hmm.
leave. I cannot
Mm.
leave I can't, because guess what? The first thing they're going to do is call the state board of nursing and put me against abandonment.
Wow. Wow. That's rough. That's
Yeah.
rough. So, for all you nurses out there that are listening, this is, again, it's a safe space to come in and tell your story and share it with others, because hopefully this information gets out to the people that need to hear this. So something can be done about it, because that's basically holding you hostage,
Hmm.
and what's most important is our patients are
Exactly.
going without quality care, if care at all.
It's ridiculous, and it's happening because nobody really cares. And I hate to say it, because everything is about money, and that's what the world has come to. Everything is about money. Everything in the facilities is all about getting a body in the building, and the fact that the DONs are not having us properly report things, it makes it so easy for you to become a lazy healthcare worker. Because
Wow.
honestly, don't get me wrong, the paperwork for to send somebody out to the hospital is tedious. It's a long, it's a lot. So when you go
Mhm.
into a facility and you have somebody that really, let's say you got a nurse that's just here for the money, they love that. They
Mm.
love that we're skipping through all the hoops and we're not doing the right things. and the job becomes easy to them. And
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, your resident with the G tube is getting neglected because they're not going to flush them like the orders say, because
Mm-hmm.
nobody cares. Nobody
Wow.
cares,
That is a
so
hard pill to swallow right there.
mhm.
And again, you have firsthand account experience with it on a daily basis. How do you, how do you disconnect from that if you can disconnect at all?
It's times, it's sad to say, but you get immune to it, and
Mm,
you get desensitized in a way. Like a person that's
mm,
so used to death, they get used to it. So
wow.
you disconnect when you clock out,
Mm,
you know.
yeah.
But it's been times when it's been awful. It's just
Mm,
been times where things hunt me over and over. It's especially when I have a resident that really needs me and calling out for something so small, but I'm
mm,
so overworked and I'm so overloaded, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, let me go get your aid. Because I'm trying to get wound care documents, family. I'm trying to get so much done. I can't help this resident that's just begging for water. And I tell them I have to go get their aid because I'm dealing with a family member or it's something crucial right now. So
mm,
things like that, it's hard to disconnect from. And I have to ask for forgiveness sometimes. Sometimes I have to ask God to forgive me. And lately, it's been a dark place. Work has been a dark place. It's been like, I got to get up, and it's like working in a prison, an institute. And I feel like prisoners get better treatment and better quality care than the residents in a nursing home, in the long term care facilities. And
mm-hmm.
you know, you disconnect when you leave, and you do it all over again.
Yeah. Listeners, if you're out there, definitely call in for your story, with your story, and tell your truth, because this is going to reach the people that it needs to reach. That's why this platform was designed and created, for those to come on and tell their truth. Continue giving me some insight of your day to day. What's a normal work day for you when you get up, pull in that parking lot to that facility, go from there?
Okay, pull up. You pray, offer up, because you don't know what you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna get. Oftentimes they don't have like up to date report sheets. You have family members you have to deal with. You have orders, lots of orders from the doctor, lots of orders from therapy.
Half of
Um,
those you can't even make come to pass, right?
yeah,
Half of those orders that you receive um, from the doctors for a patient, you can't make it come to pass because you have to report that to who? The
video.
director of nursing.
All right. A lot of things is gonna get altered and changed.
Mm-hmm.
So you go in, and honestly, you don't really get to give these residents the bedside manners that they deserve. I
Mm-hmm.
can't ask my CNA to do it because who am I? Who am I? So a lot of times, a resident may not be able to get an eye drop because it's just so much you have to do, so much
Wow.
medication you have to give. On top
Wow.
of that, dealing with orders in doctors and family. So after you give out the medication, they really expect for you to go into the dining room and help with dining, and you're already short staffed and you're already overworked. So you try to
Wow.
do that, which a lot of times the nurses is not really involved with dining because it's really hard to be.
Mm.
You do AccuChecks at the same time that they serve lunch. So once I do that, I have a lot of documentation to do. Meaning,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the skilled residents, if you're there, skilled or private pay, you have to do charting
Mm-hmm.
in order for the facility to get paid. You have a lot of facilities where they're not doing the charting at all. It's all in red, so you have nothing to go and reference off of. So it's just
Wow.
mentally a lot on a day to day basis.
Yeah, that right there, it's almost, and I'm gonna say this because we keep it real on Vital Signs with Lisa Williams. It's almost like a type of slavery, you know.
Modern day,
Yeah.
absolutely. Since COVID came, a lot of agencies have came about. Somewhere down the line, the staffing coordinators have found a way to make their money on the side. You know, they're dealing with
Mm-hmm.
agency, and it's on high demand, so
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like gambling. So on top of dealing with the stress of the workplace, you have to pay your way to work
Mm.
in the facility because you have to feed your kids. So I had
Mm.
a situation where the facility was on high demand because they were paying very high.
Mm-hmm.
With the agency I worked for, like the moment they post, it would be gone, and the staffing person power tripped a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it would come a time I would leave my information. I'd be like, please block book me my open availability. I'm open. I'm open. Block book me. This is my number. You know, and I'm not a lazy nurse. I'm very hands on. So I would try to do it the right way, and I would never be able to get block booked. And then that's when things get around and gossip go around, and that's when they tell me,
Mm-hmm.
pay them. You
Mm-hmm.
pay them, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
get block booked. So I'm like, let me check this out, because this is
Mm-hmm.
no way, no way. So the staffing coordinator booked the shift for me, and I ended up buying them lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for booking me. Just to see, to test the waters, to see. And ever since then, I started getting block booked at a price. I had to pay them $50 a week, and they would send me my shifts, and I would pay them. So that was $200 a month. So on top of dealing with all this, I have to gamble for hours to feed my kids. And here you have a
Wow.
nurse that has open availability, great credentials, and I'm not lazy. I go above and beyond, asking and begging the right way to come into your facility, but yet
Mm-hmm.
I have to pay you to come in the facility.
Wow.
So on a day to day basis, it was just like, whew,
Now that right there, and this is not the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh time that I have heard this a story like this, where clinicians have to kind of, on the side or on the back end, pay a director of nursing, to number one, get a shift, or
mm-hmm,
number two, to be block booked,
right,
for a shift.
right,
And I hear, some facilities will say, no, we don't use agency. We don't use agency. They're comfortable more with the people that, let's just say full timers, because the full timers, they already know what to expect. They know they can't really say anything about certain
right.
things that's going on, um, they're more comfortable with that. So when we have a nurse that comes in outside from agency, like you said, you got to sometimes kind of grease palms, or buy your way in, or do or say things that are sometimes unethical. And at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, you're like, I have to feed my kids.
I
I
gotta
got to
feed my
work.
kids. I
My
gotta
hands
work.
are tied. What am I going to do? If I contact and tell the state, then that director of nursing or whoever's in charge get a hint or a whiff of that, boom, they DNR you.
They DNR you.
And
They
if they have
DNR
sister
you.
companies, guess what? They're gonna what? DNR you
You
from
can't go
there
to any
and
of those sisters, and I have went through that, and
yeah,
it's just really unfortunate.
yeah.
It's
And
so
again,
unfortunate,
wow, the
and
patient suffers. That's at
the
the end of the day,
hmm
that's where I'm always gonna go to, is the patient, the people that cannot advocate for themselves. Some of them are nonverbal, some of them are paralyzed, and I'm speaking from experience. So that's how I can relate to your heart. I can relate to,
absolutely,
your mind. And you're right. You have to stay prayed up. I'm not trying to
yeah,
preach at you, but I am saying you got to believe in something higher than yourself to just get
absolutely,
through the day, you know?
absolutely, and it's been times where I have reached out to a DON. I had a resident that was on hospice, and hospice is in a life,
Mm-hmm.
and the resident had a GI bleed, and I diagnosing it because obviously I'm a nurse and I deal with it a lot. So I called it as a GI bleed. I called hospice
Mm-hmm.
first. I called hospice first. Then I called the DON.
Mm.
Hospice called the family, and the family chose to send the resident out to the hospital. The DON chewed me out. First of all,
Mm.
why did you call them first? You called me first.
Wow.
You called me first. Second of all, why just sending her out to the hospital? She's on hospice anyway. She's going to die. Let her die of a GI bleed.
Wow. That's so hard. How did you handle
I was
that
like,
statement in that moment?
when she said that, I was like, I was in disbelief. First of all, she was on speakerphone, and the hospice nurse was right there, and I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, she really don't care about these people. The family
Mm-hmm.
wanted to send her out to a hospital. If the
Wow.
family decided that they wanted her to stay home, I mean, in facility, we make her comfortable, we up her morphine, and then she die of a GI bleed, then that's different. But the family is wanting it. So she telling me to do documentation. Let's talk about it. So
Let's talk
she telling
about
me
it.
what to write. I can't write what I want to write. And mind you, I'm in there. I see what's going on. She's telling me what to
Wow.
write in the computer. She's
Mm.
telling me what to write. So I have to lie. I have to write whatever narrative the DON comes up
Wow.
with to make the facility look good.
You're not the only nurse that I have spoken to within the past 3 weeks that has said this statement. I mean, it is almost to the letter, so again, for the listeners out there, especially if you are a nurse, come on to Vital Signs with Lisa Williams and share your story, because your story will help encourage others to share theirs. So something can be done about this horrible pattern that we're seeing, and that we're hearing about in these facilities.
I
Mm,
want to put my
mm.
cat in a nursing
Wow.
home. It's been times where, we're all overworked. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a difference between being overworked and just not caring no more. I have a friend that is unfortunately in jail, and
Mm-hmm.
his cellmate had chronic pain in the stomach, went to the healthcare in the prison facility,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they ran tests on him instantly. And the
Wow.
next day, he got diagnosed with stomach cancer.
Got
That's
what he
how
needed.
quick they was there for him and started him on treatment and everything.
Wow.
In a facility in the world of freedom, in the land of
Mm.
free, and we have residents that does not get that same type of quality care. They may suffer because
Wow.
it has become a place of nobody caring, because it's just easier not to care. It's easy for me
Wow.
to not care, right?
Mm.
It's easy for me to have that DON that want to brush everything under the rug because I don't have to do the hour paperwork for a
Mm-hmm.
fall. I had a fall, resident fell. She was she was tore up pretty badly. So I wrote
Mm-hmm.
everything down, and I kid you not, I kid you not, I came back to work the next day, and the DON had updated what I wrote and wrote her own narrative.
Yeah.
For example, the resident didn't have on shoes. I told the truth. She put in there, oh, the
Mm-hmm.
resident had on shoes. Or the resident was doing this to make the fall make sense. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
she told me on numerous occasions that we don't write the notes right. She'll
Mm.
handle the notes. She'll handle the
Wow.
notes. So it's just,
That's a lot. That
yeah.
that I, again, I could not even imagine. Some of the things you're saying, I definitely, from the patient perspective, can relate to. But being on the front line as a nurse, having to go into a facility and basically be a robot for someone else, and not be able to, number one, provide the quality care that the patients deserve. Number two, be able to write and speak the truth. And then number three, to be at the mercy of someone like that wants to control, the truth and the support that you are there to provide for the patient. you know Again, it's like slavery.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like, slavery.
absolutely.
And if you
And they
don't
do
do
it for
what's
money. It's done for
that was
money
my next
because
point.
it's like we spoke about earlier, it's the ratings. They have to meet a quota to get bonuses,
Mm,
and that's all they care about. Absolutely,
meeting quotas.
we're not gonna report anything. It was a wound care nurse that, I mean, the turnover is so high in these facilities, and that's why agency is in there.
Mm-hmm.
80% of the time, So
Mm-hmm.
I just witnessed a time where a wound care nurse, she had just became RN and she went into wound care. She came into this facility and she would document all the wounds. She's like telling me
Wow.
they only have this wound and that wound. And she started documenting all these new change of wounds, change of conditions. And they
Wow.
put her in the office and told her she can't do that.
Mm.
And she told them, "Oh no, my license, I just became RN." So
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, she ended up quitting, and that's just what we're up against. We can't make a wound a new change because it triggers the state and it brings their star ratings down. And if the star ratings go down, you're not gonna want to put your grandmother in there. That's a 2-star
Right.
facility, you
Right.
know. So
Mm.
I mean, wounds. I mean, wounds after wounds. I mean,
Mm.
wounds so big you can put your fist into. I mean, the facility is saturated, and it kind of reminded me of a story off of Netflix called "I Care a Lot."
I'm
And
familiar. Yep.
okay, and that's just
Mm-hmm.
kind of how it is. You place them to these facilities, they close in, and they get treated the worst way ever.
Yep.
And that's just what it is. And I got tired of playing the devil. I was being the devil advocate, and one day I just was like, "Oh no, I can't."
Wow.
It was draining me.
And what
All the
happened
life.
to you? When you said, you know what, I just can't take it anymore. I can't. I cannot do this. And in the back of your mind, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm seeing this, but I still got to provide for my children.
Right.
I
And
still, this is my livelihood.
not only did they DNR me, they DNR me from the sister facilities like we spoke from. So this
Mm-hmm.
this corporation had like 3, 4 sister facilities that I'm not even to this day allowed to work to feed my kids, all because I said I was going to speak up, which I did not,
Mm-hmm.
because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to, because look what God brought me to you.
Oh, amen.
So
Amen.
if one person can see this, and one change, it can reach the right audience, and together we can make change. To any healthcare professionals, I feel like if this is not your calling, this is not your dream, do not do it. Do not do it because the money is good. It's very good money. It's
Mm-hmm.
very good money. But your soul and your heart have to be good too, because we have to stop this, because if we don't stop it, these people will ultimately be treated like nothing. So if you're
Wow.
not passionate about nursing, please do not get into the field, because we're
Mm,
already oversaturated with laziness and
mm,
unethical
mm.
dishonesty. It's already oversaturated, and and I pray that my story is the same as your story, all the nurses and healthcare workers out there, and your heart is as my heart is, and we can all come together and change it as one. And it's going to start
Yes,
from the top. We're going to have to start doing the right thing. I'm sorry for the ratings of the building. If they fall, we just have to do the right thing. If
that's
it
right.
triggers the state, it is what it
That's
is.
right. That's
Because guess
right.
what?
And
That could be your mom or your grandmom, anybody. Strokes
mm-hmm,
happen too. They're happening younger than you. They're getting younger and younger,
mm-hmm.
younger and
Yep.
younger. And imagine not being able to feed yourself or speak for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely. I can attest to that, with my own nurse, when I was paralyzed and when I couldn't speak, when I had cancer and going through it right now, if I didn't have a nurse with a heart, you understand, and the mindset and that courage to speak the truth, I wouldn't be where I am. Thank you for telling others and bringing others in to Vital Signs with Lisa Williams to speak their truth, because someone is going to hear this information, because something has to be done. We have people are dying, and those that are on the front line that are providing the quality care, that have the heart, that have the skills, that have the mindset, and they're being persecuted
hmm
for just doing what they went to school to do and having the
hmm
heart and, again, the mind and the qualities to provide it, yet they're unable to do that. No, we can't have that. So to all our listeners, please share this information and get the word out. People don't really think about a nurse until they need one.
yeah,
So we have to change that
amen.
mindset right there and be appreciative of our nurses, our frontliners. Thank you so much for coming on and telling your truth of what you go
Mm-hmm.
through day to day to day. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your inspiration, because just speaking with you inspires me to go out there and speak to even more nurses.
Mm-hmm.
So come
That's
on
awesome.
in. That's what the
Yeah.
platform was created for, to speak your truth. Of course, we will not mention any facilities names or any one person, single them out, but this is a platform for our nurses to be able to feel safe and tell the truth, so this information can go to a higher power where it needs to go.
Oh, thank you. We need this. We need this because
Absolutely.
if it's about $1, if you treat it as a money sign and not like a person, it's nobody we have to turn to,
Mm,
because the facilities are broke. And you
mm,
call state, what state doing? When they go into the facilities, they tagging them. And if the
mm.
facilities don't have no money to give state, guess what? State don't care. So
Yeah.
we don't
No.
have a voice. And I thank you for allowing this. And I can just let it naturally flow without feeling like you're going to go write a negative comment on my license, or you're
Mm.
going to DNR me. And I thank you so much for allowing me to be a voice and other healthcare workers to be a voice, because it really has to change. And it starts with us. And I thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, it is my honor and my pleasure. And I'm so grateful to those that contribute to Vital Signs with Lisa Williams, to be able to, so we are able to provide, this type of platform for nurses, families, and patients, because we got patients too that's beating down the door to want to tell their story of
Mm-hmm.
being into a long-term care facility or a hospital. They want to tell their story about the type of care that they receive. No one is going to go without being able to have their voice heard. Thank you for being literally the first. You are going to be the first, the light, the beacon. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for coming on board, and being able to tell your truth and sharing your story to help someone else. Like a good friend told me, if only one person watch or listen to the Vital Signs with Lisa Williams podcast, then we've reached one person. We do things now for the sake of those that come behind us or
Right.
come after us.
Eventually it's going to
So,
reach somebody.
oh
Eventually,
yeah. Oh yeah.
eventually it's going to reach, and we just hoping that it reach the right crowd, so
Mm-hmm.
we don't have to compare and contrast prison healthcare to long-term healthcare, for goodness sake,
Right.
so
Right. Right.
we
Wow.
it's going to reach the right crowd, I believe. I have people that I'm going to send your way,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to spread the word. I am going to repost. I am going to rep your brand until it
Yes.
reaches the right audience.
Well, thank you so much. There are so many people that just don't want this information to get out, which is
Right.
so sad. It's so sad. This is the United States of America,
Yeah.
the land of the free and the home of the brave. And
Yeah.
these things should not be happening to any of us. Any of us. I have a good friend that always tell me, I'll say, "How you doing?" He'll say, "Better than I deserve."
Right.
We all deserve quality health care. We
Right.
all of our nurses deserve to have their PII information secure and safe. All of our nurses deserve to have the equipment that they need to provide the quality care. Patients aren't the burden, it's the situation,
It's a situation. It's a
that we have to
situation,
deal
and
with.
unfortunately, they get the backlash of the burden.
Right, right,
And it's
right.
scary. It's scary. It's
Mm-hmm.
scary. You have to advocate. You have to be a voice. It's very scary to be
Yeah.
a patient in a long term facility, and that's just
Wow.
the reality.
Well, there it is, listeners. You heard it right there. And you're going to keep on hearing it, because we're going to have so many people come in, from nurses to family members to doctors, anyone that wants to come on and share a story. I'm so sorry that you and all of our nurses have to go through this. And most important, our patients. My heart bleeds. My mind bleeds. That is why it was imperative that Vital Signs with Lisa Williams go forth, because we have to do something. We got to do something, and we're doing something. We're doing something. So I thank God for you. I thank God for your family. And I know we're going to talk, so you just keep in touch. And I look forward to you being on the next podcast. Just
Thanks.
keep fighting the good fight. Keep
Yes,
fighting the
ma'am.
good fight.
Thank
Okay.
you. You
All
too.
right.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
All right.
Okay. Bye bye.